Terrific, Alex. My name is Tim Faith. I'm a professor here at CCBC, which is a community college in Baltimore County, Maryland. And I wanted to talk a little bit about using generative AI to help you with some of the course configuration and setup that you may or may not need to deal with your teaching. And I was going to talk a little bit about education law, which is an elective I teach in the summer at the college. It's a short class. It has to do with the rights of students, educators, and administrators, primarily a constitutional law class in the context of education. And I have a publisher textbook I'm going to use for the course. And, I have a set of course objectives that I'm trying to accomplish, various different topics that are related to education law, like constitutional law, tort law, student discipline, uh, criminal procedural rights, and then there's some contractual concepts, employment law concepts in the class. And the way they have this organized is into units where students will learn about smaller pieces of the material at a time. And then within the units, I have modules. So there's a total, I think, of 12 modules altogether that I have scheduled here for this relatively short 4-week semester. And so what I was trying to do was to build out some course content for students to help them with um, reading about and applying or practicing with some of the concepts in each of the modules. And what I was doing was I had already recorded a number of lectures for this class. It's an asynchronous class, so I have some pre-recorded lectures. And I was going to use that to help students with trying to understand some of the course content here. And so what I've done is I built at proffaith.com, I built a website where I can access various application programming interfaces with various forms of AI to be able to speed up some of the development of course content and course material. And I also have already recorded these lectures, so they're on my YouTube channel, and I can use them in order to kind of start to build out some content that would help students with the materials. Okay. Now, I use Brightspace. We're a Brightspace college, and one of the concepts in Brightspace is the checklist, which permits students to kind of go along and do certain activities in a certain order within Brightspace. And I have those laid out here. I have another bunch of modules to build and checklists with them to build. But I was working on chapter 8, which has to do with codes of conduct and student discipline for students. And I had started already constructing this, so I have a checklist item to tell them to read chapter 8 and take some notes about chapter 8 from the textbook. And then I have a section here for my lecture, and there's a link that will take you to the YouTube channel for that. So what I wanted to do was to build some other exercises for students that are related to this material. So I've already logged in, and I have a dashboard here of activities that I can do. One of them is to go and look at transcriptions. And what this permits you to do is to take a file, and you can MP3 file, any other kind of audio file, like a M4A file, and then I can upload that, which takes a few minutes for it to process it. And what it will do is it interacts with an API for Assembly AI, which will transcribe that lecture for me. And so I can go here and view the lecture. And this one is on student discipline. It's about 30 minutes, I think, this particular lecture. And down below, you'll see the kind of unabridged, unedited transcript of that lecture. It goes on for a while. And so in and of itself, maybe I could edit that to be able to give students a written transcript if that would be useful. But one of the other things that I wanted to do for students was to give them a summary. And so what this function does is it will create a lecture transcript summary. It's about a page or less. And when it gets done, I can download it. It's just a text file. And then what I can do here, I can share that just so you see it. Okay, just a text file here that the system generated. So as you can see, a relatively long lecture, but here's a paragraph here that the AI has been prompted to generate. So I'm going to use that in my course setup here. And I'm going to paste that here so that students have a general idea of what this is about, what this lecture is about. And I noticed that the AI thinks I'm a woman, so sometimes it says that she as opposed to he. But so I looked at that. I don't see any she's that need to be he's, but it talks in sort of a summary fashion about what you're going to hear about in the lecture. Okay, so that's great. I'm going to save that. The next thing I wanted to do was to generate a skeletal outline for students. And so I'm going to let it do that. Again, this is another API call, in this case, to ChatGPT for chat to generate an outline for my students that they can use. Okay, and so let me download that. Again, that generates a text file that is downloaded. And let me share that to everybody. So here's my outline. Okay. And what I was thinking I would do is I already have like an existing template. So let me save a new one. And this is Unit 2, Lecture 5. And I'm going to share my Word document just so you can see what I'm doing here. All right, so I have my skeletal outline. This is my template. And delete that. And then I'm going to open back up my Word document here, or my text file, which has some stuff here for students. And I'm going to post this, and I don't know what this did. I guess he couldn't understand me. I think they meant the Fourth Amendment. Right, it's imperfect, right? It makes mistakes like we make mistakes. And then, it has some other things here. Maybe what I'd like is for it to just put some blanks, so that students know that they can, write notes. That's the idea of the skeletal outline for students. As they're listening to the lecture, they can look at the slides, but they can also take notes and use that in their work in making notes for the lecture. Okay, so I did that, I think relatively good. So what I'd like to do next is I'm going to upload this as a document. And you can do that in Brightspace and managing files and click upload. And I have my outlines, so I'm going to drop that in here and that'll save it. So it's here for students. So what I can do then for them to have access to that is to go back into my outline, or excuse me, my checklist, and go into the lecture here. And I can give them a link in the checklist item to the particular skeletal outline that I just created for them for this particular lecture. Okay, so I think that's pretty good, right? So they have a summary, they have a link to the lecture that's recorded, they have a scaled outline they can use to take notes. So the other thing that I was going to do was to build some items. And I wanted to do that next so that students could sort of validate that they've gotten out of the lecture what I'm hoping that they will get from listening to it. Now, the theory of this is that I should probably have a learning objective that I want to ask them about. Okay, and so let me go and look at if I go back to the module that we're working on here, which is in module 5. I really only have two specific learning objectives. One is the key issues about student discipline and then constitutional rights of students. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to generate some items about each one of those. So I'm going to put that here. You could, if you were so inclined, copy and paste. Help if I did that so I would spell it right. And then I have some choices here about creating items. I can make multiple choice, true, false, fill in the blank, or matching items that are all importable into Brightspace. So I'm going to make some multiple choice questions. I'm going to make 10 of them, have a pool, and I'm going to click Generate CSV. This takes a little while. Again, this is another interaction with an API to, I think, ChatGPT again, for it to take the lecture transcript, the learning objective, and to generate a text file that I can download of these multiple choice items. It takes it a little while to think about that and to generate it in the appropriate format. And so we're waiting here for a little bit. I think it does vary. If you ask for more questions, it might take more time for it to do this process and then complete. But we'll know when we're ready because I'll get a link that says download your CSV, which right on time. So here it is. I'm going to click that. All right, and that's generated another text file. Let me open that up for you just so you can see what it looks like. I just have this in text edit. Let me again share that. Okay, and so you see here is my text file, and it has 10 questions in it, it looks like. Great, and it looks like it's in the right format. So what do you do with that? Well, if you go to quizzes in Brightspace and you go to the question library, what I've been doing is creating sections in the question library just to help myself stay organized. And so I'm going to make a new section, and this is the Unit 2, Lecture 5 lecture. Okay, and that'll make a little section down here. And then what I can do is import. It lets me upload a file. And so you just drag and drop your CSV file. And it says it found 10 questions. Let me go ahead and import them. And then you see here that there are 10 multiple choice questions that have been populated into this section. Like, okay, great, right? And so what I might do then, since I'm here, maybe I should make some more questions about the other learning objectives. So let me go and look. I forget what it is. Discuss the constitutional rights here. I'm going to copy this. I'm going to put that in my learning objectives box. And you know what, this time, why don't I make some true false questions? I'll make 10 of them, let's say. And I'll let that cook for a little bit. Again, probably will take it some time to generate a new text file. And while it's cooking, maybe I can go off and do something else in the course configuration. Again, I can kind of multitask, though it burns me out by the end of the evening after setting up all the courses like this. But the idea of this is that I can generate more, I can generate errors. That's not helpful. I can generate other content here in order to be able to just see maybe it actually worked anyway. Let me just see if it actually generated true false questions here. Some of that, yeah, it did actually do it, even though it got upset about it. But if I share this text file here, you'll see that again, this is true false instead of multiple choice. It's another 10 that have something to do with constitutional rights. Okay, so I can go back here and go back into my question library and go into the Unit 2 Lecture 5, and I can import those as well. Let me just drag and drop those additional questions here. Okay, great, right? So now I have 20 questions altogether that I can use for an exercise. So let me build one. What I've done is have some other, for each lecture, I have this sort of check your understanding quiz. And this is the Unit 2, Lecture 5. Check, can I type and talk at the same time? Probably not. Okay. And I'm going to make this do like the other couple lectures. They're due on the 15th, and I'm going to make them not available until we start the class. And after saying, give them some instructions, and then what I'm going to do is create a question pool. And I can just choose all those questions in that particular container. Again, keeping it organized for myself makes this easier now. And what I can do is say, well, let it randomly select 10 out of 20. So as students take this, if they take it multiple times, they'll actually get somewhat different questions from the question pool, keeping it a little bit more fresh for them. And because this is really just practice and homework, I'm going to let them take it as many times as they like. And for the questions that they get wrong, I'm going to give them the ones they miss without an answer so they can study from that if they'd like to do that. Okay. And one of the things I forgot to do was actually to generate some matching questions. So I'm going to use the lecture again to do that, and I'm going to make one matching question. Now, in the background with the API, I've told it to at least have 5 vocabulary terms. Again, maybe I could say, let's see what it will do if I say make 6, whether it will actually listen to me or not. Again, it's a non-deterministic system and sort of sometimes a petulant high school student, so it doesn't always do exactly what you ask. It's got its own mind, right? It's also just statistical thinking in the background. But anyway, let me see if it'll generate something for me. Again, I don't know if I'll get another timeout. I have to work on some of the bugs here as I'm working on this website. But the point of this is that I could generate another item, and I could then import that in as well. And so then what the students would have are 10 true, false, and multiple choice questions that are kind of lower level blooms. And then you have a matching question, which is again kind of a vocabulary question. Do you know what this means, this particular word? Which of the 5 or 6 is that? Then yeah, it generated another error. I don't know why that is. I don't know why it keeps timing out. Let's see if I download it, if it actually generated a matching question. And it seems that it did do that. So let me share that. And then you see it actually did generate 6 choices and 6 matches, which is interesting. So you could tell it, and it might listen to you. It at least should generate 5, but if you ask for more, it may in fact grant your request. Okay, so let me go back here and I'm going to, before I do anything else, I'll save that. I'll go back to my question library because I forgot, and I'll import my last file. And it found its one matching question. Okay, great. So that's down here. Again, you can look at it. You see the things. Do you think that's right? In terms of how it thinks these are defined to each other. Okay, sure. I think that's okay. So let me go back and then I'm going to add that to my quiz. I can just add the one at the bottom, right? And it'll always show up. So there's the pool of 20, which you get 10, and then you get this item, which is the 11th item always in this particular activity. Okay, so now I got that done. I got that put together. So let me go back to my checklist because I want them to do this assignment. And I noticed I used a dash for the other ones. So let me fix that. And then let me go into the lecture. And then I can just simply insert yet another link for them to follow, which is my lecture quiz. Okay. So I don't know how long this recording is offhand, maybe 15 or 20 minutes. Some of it, as you noticed, is me waiting for the API to respond. But the point is, if I had to do all this by hand, if I had to generate a lecture and then generate a summary of it, right? What did I talk about for 30 minutes? And then I wanted to generate an outline for students to take notes. Okay, and that would take me some time. And then I want to check their knowledge of what they got out of the lecture with some items. And writing items is an art. It takes a while to do that. I mean, just to get one lecture prepared, recorded, and available to students with all these other supplemental materials is probably a full day's worth of work if you did it all by hand. This might very well save you a few hours of work. Again, you have to check. I mean, you have to validate that it did the right thing, but it can very easily speed up your ability to produce content for your students, which is really what we're all here to do, is to provide students with content and experiences, provide them with feedback and interaction, and help them through the learning process, in doing that. Not so much sitting around and writing items by hand. I'm not sure that that's really a good use of an instructor's time. So let AI help you with that. And again, you don't really need my take on this to be able to complete this activity, but you would have had to have built the Python scripts. You'd have to have created all the accounts with all the third-party application programming interfaces. You have to pay for all those activities in order to be able to process your files and process the rest of it. And if you want, instead of having to do all that, you can in fact subscribe and get some of these features on a monthly or annual subscription. Try to be reasonable to cover my costs for providing the convenience. And again, there's a variety of things that become available to subscribers. But the idea of this is to help you speed up your practice, your teaching practice, so that you can build a course out, you can supplement students with activities and resources that will help them. Skeletal outlines, practicing what you heard, those are all things that help students retain information and be able to get more out of your class. So anyway, that's what this is all about. Hope it's helpful to you. Feel free to reach out if you have questions, and I look forward to talking to you.